George Pierre Hennard was an American mass murderer responsible for the Luby's Cafeteria shooting on October 16, 1991. George Hennard was born on October 15, 1956 in Sayre, Pennsylvania. He was born into a well-off family. He had a younger brother named Alan and a younger sister named Desiree. From the age of just 5 years old, he and his family would move around the country. His father was a surgeon from Switzerland that would work at several army hospitals. Eventually, Hennard's family would find themselves moving to New Mexico, where his father worked at the White Sands Missile Range near Las Cruces. Hennard graduated from Mayfield High School in Las Cruces in 1974. After graduation, he enlisted in the United States Navy. He served for 3 years, and he was later honorably discharged. His parents later got divorced in 1983. His father moved to Houston, Texas, and his mother moved to Henderson, Nevada. After his discharge from the Navy, he would work as a merchant mariner. He was discharged from Merchant Marine on May 11, 1989 for possession of marijuana and racial incidents. That same month, his seaman papers were suspended after a racial argument with another shipmate. The next year, in 1990, he called Isaiah Williams, who was a port agent for the National Maritime Union in Wilmington, California. He said that he needed a letter of recommendation to regain his papers, and Isaiah Williams said that he did not recall giving Hennard that letter. Hennard's attempt to be reinstated was denied. He enrolled in a drug treatment program in Houston, Texas, and around 2 months before the shooting, Hennard went to a store to buy breakfast in Belton, Texas. The store clerk stated that he leaned over the counter and said, "I just want to tell everybody if they don't quit messing around my house, something awful's going to happen." A few weeks later, he collected his paycheck from the cement company he worked for in Copperas Cove, and he took that opportunity to announce that he was quitting. On October 15, 1991, the day before the shooting, it was his 35th birthday, and he took some time to speak to his mother on the phone. Later that evening, while eating a cheeseburger and some French fries, he had an outburst of rage while watching the television coverage of Clarence Thomas's confirmation hearings. Clarence Thomas is an American lawyer who serves as an Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court. And a manager stated that when the interview with Anita Hill came on, he just went off. Anita Hill is an American lawyer, educator, and author. It was reported that he started screaming, "You dumb bitch! You bastards, open the door for all the women." And the next day, October 16, 1991, at 12:39 p.m., George Hennard drove his blue Ford Ranger through the plate glass front window of Luby's Cafeteria in Killeen, Texas. It was reported that there could have been up to 150 people present when he burst through the front of the restaurant. Armed with a Glock 17 and a Ruger P-89, Hennard began firing at patrons from inside his pickup truck. His first victim was a 48-year-old veterinarian named Michael Griffith. As he climbed out of the truck, he yelled, "All women of Killeen and Belton are vipers. This is what you've done to me and my family, and this is what Bell County did to me. This is payback day." He then resumed firing at patrons and staff with both of his pistols. He made his way around the cafeteria, deliberately selecting his victims. He came across a woman and said, "You bitch," before killing her. He saw another woman hiding underneath a bench and said, "Hiding from me, bitch," and he killed her. A man named Steve Ernst was hiding under a table. Hennard shot him in the stomach. Then he made his way to a woman with a baby. He said, "You with the baby, get out before I change my mind." And the woman ran out with her infant. After the woman left, he shot Steve Ernst's wife in the arm. The bullet went through her arm and killed 70-year-old Venice Ellen Hennihan, who was Steve Ernst's mother-in-law. A 28-year-old named Tommy Vaughn, huddled on the floor beside a window in the rear of the cafeteria, threw himself through a window, and that created an escape route for others. Dozens of panicked people pushed and shoved, knocking each other down, clamoring to their escape. Only a few minutes later, police arrived on the scene. At that time, about 1/3 of the patrons had already escaped. It was reported that Hennard reloaded at least 3 times before police arrived. Hennard and the police engaged in a shootout. Hennard was hit with gunfire. He was shot twice by police in the abdomen. He retreated between the 2 bathrooms, and the police repeatedly ordered him to surrender. Of course, he refused, saying that he was going to kill more people. He had spent his ammunition for one of his weapons, and then he realized that he only had 1 round left in the other. As his wounds began to get worse, he raised his gun to his head, and using his final bullet, he took his life with a shot to the head. After the chaos settled, he had shot and killed 23 people and wounded another 27. 10 of the 23 killed were executed with single shots to the head at point-blank range. Early in the investigation of the massacre, the Killeen police chief said that Hennard had an evident problem with women for some reason. Hennard was described as reclusive and belligerent with an explosive temper. An ex-roommate of his actually said that he hated blacks, Hispanics, and gays. He said that women were snakes and always had derogatory remarks about them, especially after fights with his mother. 14 of the 23 people killed were women, as were many of the wounded. Families of deceased victims, survivors, and policemen sought counseling for grief, shock, and stress. The Texas State Rifle Association and others preferred that the state allowed its citizens to carry concealed weapons. Democratic Governor Ann Richards vetoed concealed carry bills, up until 1995, when her Republican successor George W. Bush signed a concealed carry bill into force. That law was supported and campaigned for by Susanna Hupp, who was present at the massacre. Actually, both of her parents were killed by Hennard. She testified that she would have liked to have her .38 revolver, but she said it was 100 feet away in my car. Hupp testified around the country in support of concealed carry laws. She was eventually elected to the Texas House of Representatives in 1996. A pink granite memorial was erected and stands behind the Killeen Community Center with the date of the event and the names of those who were killed. The restaurant reopened 5 months after the massacre, and it operated for a time, but it later closed permanently on September 9, 2000. As of 2020, a buffet called Yank Sing currently occupies the location, and at the time, the shooting was the deadliest mass shooting by a lone gunman in U.S. history, and it was later surpassed 16 years later by the Virginia Tech shooting. This is for informational purposes only. The people responsible and their actions should in no way be glorified. There are monsters among us. We must learn from our past and be preemptive. Regardless of motive, violence should always be a last resort as a method for inducing or provoking social change. Actions that lead to the taking of lives of innocent people are simply not justified.